The Yarnder team here, ladies and gentlemen. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 78 of the YarnderWoman podcast. My name is Melinda. You can find me as YarnderWoman on Instagram and Ravelry. And we also have a Ravelry page in the groups tab. Get my word order right there. And you can search for that by looking up YarnderWoman podcast, and it'd be lovely if you joined us over there. All the show notes for this episode can be found at www.yarnderwoman.blogspot.com.au, and I will also put timestamps for the segments, though there's not really segments in this one. This is going to be a bit of a different episode from normal, but there'll be links to the show notes and everything in the show notes down below in YouTube as well. So thank you very much for joining me. As I said, today's going to be a little bit unusual, and that is because I'm going to be talking about my 2018 wrap-up, even though we're in February. It's the 3rd of February, if I didn't already say that, 2019. And then I'm going to tell you more about my goals for 2019. So episode 77, which I have just finished filming, so if I look familiar, that's why. Not just me, I'm in my outfit, you know. Hopefully I look familiar if you've seen me before, but anyway. I've mentioned a few of my Make 9 projects, and I wanted to tell you in detail a little bit more about the rest of my plans for this year, and explain further the Make Along or Craft Along that I'm having, and also some other Craft Alongs that might be something you'd be interested in. So I hope you've got your making and a nice drink or whatever it is that you're doing. I hope you're settled in. We're going to have a chat about plans. I love plans. Do you love plans? I mentioned in the other episode that having a Make 9, which again I'll explain in case you're unaware, that's just a hashtag on Instagram, hashtag Make 9 with the word 9, and I think either just Make 9 or Make 9 2019, and you'll see people will have a grid of 9 squares with 9 projects they'd like to make this year. So there's no theme around it, it's just 9 things you'd like to make. A lot of people say that as soon as they make that kind of a list, that automatically makes them never want to knit those things, and they never do. Whatever, that's fine. There's no, have-tos. They're not lists of compulsion. And I've never made one before. I've never been interested in having a Make 9 list before. I've, always thought it was too restrictive or, whatever reason, I didn't like it. So I'm not sure what changed this year. I think perhaps, as I touched on in my previous episode about this lovely shawl, the Bonbon Shawl by Isabel of Fluffy Fibres, I'd been wanting to make that for a little while, and I had a few other things I really wanted to make. So I think because of that, and because, the end of the year is a traditionally busier time, I was, trying to get Christmas presents finished for my knitting, all that sort of thing. I had these few projects bubbling away of things I really wanted to do. So I think making a list therefore really appealed to me, because I thought, yes, I can finally get these done. I could have made them without a list. I don't need a list to do it, but I really liked the idea. I liked putting together my grid, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So before we go on to that though, what did I do in 2018? So in early 2019 on the Ravelry homepage, they highlighted the, what was it called? Project Goals feature that you can have in your tabs. And I remember I had set one up in the beginning of 2018 and then completely forgotten about it. Essentially, you could just say, I want to knit X number of projects by the end of the year. And then anything you mark as complete and date for that relevant year would tally onto this tab. So as I said, I'd completely forgotten about it. I had a goal of 50 projects, and I actually completed 71. Which was quite impressive. Now, a lot of those projects were small items. If you watched the podcast middle of last year, I was making a lot of squares for the Sister Survivor blanket project with the lovely Thistle Hollow podcast. So all of those were single projects because I used a different yarn for each of them. But that's still good, It's not like it has to be, my goal of 50 projects was 50 jumpers or sweaters or anything. So yeah, that was great fun. I was like, look at me go. So I think I've set another one up for this year, but again, until I read my show notes, I'd forgotten I'd done that. So it's more just something that'll be there, and maybe I'll get another surprise at the end of the year. That was good. I did a lot of charity items last year as well. Lots of hats. I think maybe more hats end of the year and more scarves and shawls beginning of the year. And I think I stopped tagging things with anything beyond the year because it was just, I was getting overwhelmed. You know, a few years ago I'd have like, you know, hats, shawls, but it was getting more specific, like heads, necks, you know, all these tags, and that was just too much. So I used to have a charity tag on my projects, but then I stopped doing it. Maybe I'll do it this year, but again, I don't want to do it for some and then forget to do it for others. At the moment, I seem to remember as I start a project page on Ravelry, you know, you start at the top, you've got your name, needle size, and then there's the tags. I sort of work my way down. So at the moment, at least, I remember to put the 2019 tag, if nothing else. Though I have been putting my Make 9 tags. Yes, tags plural. I'll tell you more in a minute. But some other goals, not related to actual projects, that I had for 2019 to do with my knitting, was organise the stash, and I'm very happy to say that one is complete. I've got a lot of yarn. It's all on Ravelry. If you're ever curious, it's there. There's over 300 entries to my stash page. I have a lot of yarn. I am very grateful for that. I know how lucky I am to have that much yarn. And again, as I mentioned just previously in episode 77, there was a period around 2011, 2012 where the Australian dollar and the American dollar were equal. So I bought a lot of yarn off Etsy then. Back then, I don't think there were many Australian hand dyers, none that I found at that time. Oh no, that's not true. There were a couple, but they're actually no longer in business. One was Solar Flare Fibres, if anyone in Australia remembers that one. So yeah, I was buying a lot on Etsy back then. It was also when I was first discovering hand dyed yarns, so I've got a lot of stash. We'll just say that. So, beginning of last year, one of my goals was to organise the stash properly, and I did start last year, which helped me when I was doing it this year because a lot had been done, but I never quite finished it last year, so it just, you know, tailed off. And you know, I found a whole lot of half-used balls in project bags shoved somewhere where things hadn't been put away, you know, things are just shoved back in the drawers. It feels so nice to have it organised. I made the Excel spreadsheet from Ravelry. If you're not aware, you can do that. You go to your stash page, and I think it's over towards the left. Oh no, sorry, my left, your right. Over towards the right, there's an Excel button. You can press that, and it will just import, as long as you've got Excel on your computer, a spreadsheet of all your stash, which is so handy because I deleted the columns I didn't need and then kept it all, and then I just literally went through, picked out every single ball or skein of yarn and crossed it off. If it was partially used, I'd weigh it and note down the new amount. I ended up with a huge bag for destashing that I'm going to put up on Ravelry for destash. It's that those yarns are listed in my destash tab, but I'm going to actually promote them on a yarn page. I think it's Australian Knitters. I think that if anyone sees anything and they're interested, by all means contact me. No pressure, just saying. I'm not exclusively selling it to Australia. It's just if I promote it, it's easier to do it with Australian postage. But if there's something you like, I'm more than happy to sort out the postage price for you and let you know. I also had a whole lot that I donated. There's a couple of women at my work who make teddies for charity. They go to the Wheelchairs for Kids charity. So wheelchairs are sent overseas, and every child gets the wheelchair, a blanket, and a knitted teddy. So I gave a massive bag, and the timing worked out really well because one particular lady had, I think, 5 days booked off work, and so she was kind of out of yarn, so she was all set. Really, really excited. I told you at the beginning I liked planning. I love being organized. I've always kept my yarn grouped by dyer. So if I have many skeins of yarn by one dyer, I've got them all together no matter what different weights the yarn is. And then other things I kind of just group together in whatever capacity. It might be base, so all the cotton yarns together, that sort of thing. Ones where I had a lot, like I've got a lot of Knit Picks yarns, I was able to put all the bulky and all the worsted in one drawer, then all the DK and sport together, then all the fingering together. So it's so nice now. I can just go, oh, I need that, and I know exactly where it is. And it's so nice. I hope you share my joy and excitement, not so much about my stuff being organised, but I guess if you're not into organisation or planning, You might find my excitement boring. I don't know. I can't help that if you do. Sorry. But I love it, and I'm so happy, and it makes me feel so calm. You know, that whole decluttering thing, you'll feel calmer. Definitely does. One thing that is my next goal that I still haven't done yet is organising my needle stash, and I'm going to be accountability buddies with lovely Mars, hey Brownberry. We were messaging and we were saying that yes, we both want to do that, but we haven't got there yet. That's okay. I also printed off the list from Ravelry where you can note down what needles and crochet hooks you have. But I know this one's a little bit of a broader project for me because I don't know where all the needles are. You know, I think I found all my project bags that might have needles in. We'll see. So that's it. It's not like they're all in a big pile and I've just got to sort them out. I've actually got to locate them. And that's what's putting me off. But I will get there. That's my other one. Another one, speaking of Mars, she is going to have the Finally Fix It cowl, and that was my third goal, was to darn a whole lot of knitted socks that I have that have been in a bag for over a year, not just from me, but from the Yarnder team and several from my niece. Yeah, it's terrible. I need to just get on and do it. So this Finally Fix It cowl is, I have not written down the dates, but I'll link it. I think it goes for a few months though, so there's no rush. I'll have to sort of learn how to darn socks. I think I've seen the method, and Isabel from Fluffy Fibers again was showing on a recent episode of hers. She fixed, I think, an elbow on a cardigan, and I think she picked up stitches and knitted up, and then maybe tack down the sides. But I think I've seen ones where you pick up the stitches and knit up, but you grab onto a stitch on either side so it kind of is whole, and then you just kitchen at the top. That's what I might do on these. But I do have a darning egg, like the wooden thing you can put in and darn on it, but I don't actually know how to do that. So there'll be some Googling, but it's lovely having that cowl as a good motivation to get it done. So more on that as I get to it. And I mentioned that I have a couple of Make 9 lists. So I have my original one where, I was so excited to make the list, so excited to start knitting on some of those projects. I've already finished 2. I'm on a 3rd one, which is, so the finished ones are the Bonbon Chaulet. Sorry, I haven't finished 2. I've finished 1, I've cast on 2. So the Bonbon Chaulet, I'm currently knitting the Kit Kat hat by Andre Sue Knits. And I'm also knitting the Keorangi cowl by Aroha Knits. So those 2 on there. What else is on my list is the Arbutus by Jane Richmond, and that's a cowl, but it's got gaps in it, so it looks like you've got ruffles of the cowl like folded over, but it's actually all in one piece, which will be great. 2 patterns by Andy Satterlin. One is the Lace Shrug, where I'm going to be using some, I think I've got a cotton linen yarn to use with it, so that's, just to go over strapless dresses, or not even strapless, just summer dresses. But then also a cropped sweater for winter, which is, I believe, a free pattern, and that's just a basic top-down cropped jumper in worsted weight, I think. The Lace Shrug is in fingering weight. And again, those are 2 things I've had on my list for quite a while, so I'll be very much looking forward to that. For my darling Smudge, I was going to knit him a little jumper using, there's the Perfect Fit dog sweater pattern, which is the one on my grid, but then I've since found and bought a pattern called the Harness Friendly dog sweater. That's by Jacqueline Sislak, and the Perfect Fit dog sweater didn't have a pattern designer on the page. But yeah, the harness friendly one, you actually have a gap at the top so that if the dog's harness goes across their back, it's not going to rub on the jumper, which is good. You want, avoid pilling. Now I said I was going to make Smudge one because he's 7 months, so we're not sure if he will have finished all his growing come winter. And the Yarnder team was saying, but if you make it, then that's his baby outfit, and if it doesn't fit him, then you just need him another one. While that's true, it will take a lot of time. So I'm not sure if he'll get one this year, but Annie, his girlfriend, who's my mother-in-law's little dog, who's a Papillon, she's just over 1, and so we think she's finished growing, and she's quite tiny. So I think she'll get a jumper this year, and that way A, it'll be quicker, and B, I can sort of learn from it for then when I make smudges next year, which will be a bigger size. Another thing on my Make 9 is the Your Favourite Brew Shawl by Jen Sheelan, and this is one where Jen, the favourite brew she's referring to is brewed beer, but it also works for brewed coffee or brewed tea, or don't have to do anything to do with brewing. So some of the patterns in it look like either beer foam or coffee grinds, you know, so you can do anything. And, you know, I love coffee, I love tea, I quite like beer too, so it's all perfect. I haven't decided what colours I'm going to make. I did have a thought of doing, because it's a 3-colour shawl, you could do it all in one colour, of course. But I was thinking I might do red, black and white, so it'd be like the White Stripes band that I love. We'll see. I haven't decided yet, but that's on the list as well. Another pattern on my Make 9 is the Pebbles and Pathways socks by Mars of Hey Brownberry. But I'm actually going to, instead of socks, I'm thinking of making the pattern into a hat, because I just think it would be really interesting. And pattern, when I do socks, I tend to do either an exceedingly basic pattern or just straight vanilla socks. That's just how I prefer to knit socks. And the Pebbles and Pathways, beautiful cable and garter stitch is just gorgeous, so I think I'd like that on a hat. And I haven't decided if I'm going to use DK or worsted weight yet. It just depends what's in my stash. As I said, I don't have a lot of DK, so I'll just see. But I will be casting that on soon, because there's another knit along. It's called the Cable Cowl or Mal, and that is with 3 podcasts. There's Marsha from Fairy Little, Grace from Babel's Travelling Yarns, and Akira from the Knitting Annihilator podcast. So these 3 women are co-hosting, and so there's 6 threads you can enter in, because there's the chatter thread and the finished objects thread, so 6 chances to win. And I'll link to all of these in the show notes as well. And I think this is going to be perfect, because you can knit anything with any number of cables, so a zillion cables, 1 cable, whatever. It's all welcome. So because it's on my Make 9, this way I can join in the community aspect of the cable knitting, because that's awesome. And speaking of Akira on Knitting Annihilator and Make 9, she actually has a thread in her Ravelry group to just chat about your Make 9. So it's not a contest, but it's just there to support each other, have a look at what you're doing. So I'll also link to that one, because that's great fun. So that's 9 projects, and then I had other things I knew I wanted to make this year, and maybe it's the fact that I like crossing things off a list. So if I have a list of things to do and I do something that's not on the list, I'll actually write it down so I can cross it off. It's very satisfying. I'm sure I'm not the only one who does that. But yes, so I had these other things I wanted to make. So I was tagging things in my Ravelry queue with hashtag second Make 9, but I had way more than 9 projects, so there's no order or rhyme or reason with those. But then I've also put together a, how have I worded it? I think it's Charity and Gift Make 9 2019. So items that I knew I wanted to make as gifts, as well as I definitely want to make some more charity projects, and there was some patterns that I wanted to try out for those. So I've got that tag, so I've got another Make 9, which is really fun, because then I get to have the grid and tick things off. But I will show you those things as I go along, and then can tick them off the list and you can cheer me on. So speaking of cheering on, I did mention in the previous episode that we do have a plan along. So if you've got a Make 9, or if you've just decided to plan to make something on the spot and you're knitting it now, anything is welcome. I will link in the show notes, and our prizes so far: the Rustic Elegance Shawl by Jen Sheelan, and the Penny Pearls Sweater by Vicky Zukanowicz. And both those designers very kindly gifted me a copy of those patterns, as well as one for you. So there is 1 thread for everything for this knit along. So chatter, works in progress, thinking about plans. I know some people have already posted things that they're thinking about, that they're going to be knitting, so they haven't quite chosen yet. And finished objects. So, but you don't have to finish within the time frame, which will be end of February, beginning of March. You don't have to finish. If you do, put a photo in, because that'll count as another entry, as well as just showing us, and it'll be wonderful to see what you've got. Now, I've written here that this cowl allows for double dipping or triple dipping, whatever, and there's a few other knit-alongs happening where you can also double dip, and they would match quite nicely. So the Twisted Stitches and Kill to Craft podcasts are holding a year-long, archive-along podcast. So essentially any pattern that you got prior to the 15th of January 2019, because that's when they started. So any pattern you bought up until the 14th of January 2019 counts as being in your archive. So if you use a pattern that was already in your library, you can enter this knit along. So it is all year. There's going to be quarterly prizes in both podcasts. Or sorry, I should say, there'll be quarterly prizes for Twisted Stitches podcast. I'm not sure if Kilter Craft necessarily is doing quarterly or what she's doing, but you can enter in both, and it's all year. So that's going to be great because a lot of the things, well, I think actually everything in my Make 9 are patterns that I had already purchased because they're things I've been wanting to make for a while. So that's going to be awesome. In fact, I must enter this in there because another thing that I can enter this in is the Stash Busting Cow, which is also a year-long one, but it's with monthly prizes. And that is by the What Shara Made podcast. And Shara ran this last year, possibly also the year before. But every month she will draw a prize. She does pattern prizes. So if you have used yarn that was in your stash prior to 2019, you can enter it in that knit along. So definitely double, triple, quadruple, quintuple, however many there are, I've lost count, from my plan along and any of those as relevant, because I know all of those podcasters are very happy to have entries that are double dipped, etc. And another knit along, craft along, make along, whatever you want to call it, that I'm running at the moment is my year-long charity make along. So if you knit, crochet, sew, weave, anything, something for charity, then do enter it in that thread. I will draw quarterly prizes as well. It does tend to be pattern prizes, but not always. Definitely enter there. I draw from the whole thread all year, but obviously the more things you make for charity, the more entries you can have. And then that's a wonderful thing to do where you can make and help other people, but you can also win a prize. So do come along and check that out. Even if you're not able to participate for whatever reason, and that's more than fine, do come and have a look and just see the beautiful work that people are doing and are making for their community or the worldwide community. I think it's really lovely to see. So thank you for joining me. This is a lovely short and sweet episode. I just really wanted to be able to show you or tell you about what my plans were. And I thought having its own little special episode was a good way to do that because not everyone's interested in hearing about plans. So that way some people may have decided to skip. If they did, that's fine. If you were here, thank you very much for being with me. I will see you again very soon with more updates on what I'm working on. Until then, have a lovely day, happy crafting, and take care. Bye-bye.